Hey gentlemen, in a recent live Q&A, a subscriber by the name of MrHighway made a really astute point that I thought deserved its own video because it's a question and a frustration among men that I see voiced quite often. And that frustration is, and I quote from MrHighway, "Why can't men let go of the picturesque 50s fantasy? It's a blip in history. It was the exception, not the rule, for how society operates," unquote. This is a very astute point. And it's a frustration I hear many men voice all the time. Why can't we go back? And at the heart of it, I think it's that men and women used to get along a lot better, ostensibly, when we look at history. You ask and you talk to grandparents and elders, and they will say, compared to today, yeah, we were more civil. Yeah, we had our frustrations, but there were limits. There were boundaries societally that we didn't cross, and relationally between each other. You know, a woman knew her place in a non-derogatory sense, and a man knew his place as well. And the modern ethic is that I don't want any limitations. I want to be able to do what I want. But relationally, that's where we fall down. I think that is where a lot of people look to the past as saying, why can't we have some of that? Because I can understand we got along so much better. And there's this overcompensation of, well, I don't want my freedoms to go down, but I also want some of this cooperation that I see in the past. One thing I see, and something I voiced in the live chat, was that it's because we have a very tactile and empirical experience of having grandparents that are still alive, that as a living, breathing human being, not only show us as an example of, yeah, look at their temperament. They're a lot more civilized. They're calmer. They're not as anxious. Not as many of them are taking antidepressants as we do. They've got a more stable view of life, and especially a relational view of life with the opposite sex. They get along better, and underlying it all, that's our frustration. So we have a very tactile, empirical experience with other human beings that are still alive, that we talk to, that tell us, no, you're doing it wrong, and we know we're doing it wrong. That's why we don't hark back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome and want those times to come back, because it's so far. And also, we look at the way they looked. We're not wearing the robes of ancient Greece. We don't look that dissimilar to the civility of the black and white era. There's also the technology. They wore shoes, we wear shoes. They wear jackets, we wear jackets. The lexicon they use, it's changed slightly, but how they speak, we speak. There is not much of a distance between us and what looked like a workable past and what our grandparents say was a workable past. I mean, even myself, I tell younger guys, it was better in my time. It's not just the fact that I was younger. People mistake that the cliche of it was better in my day. It's because you were younger, you were freer, you were more physically able, you could do more. The world was at your feet. Death wasn't an impending thing that was just over the horizon. But it was more that objectively, you go back from this generation and everyone says, compared to now, it was better. And relationally between men and women, it was better. We survived the world cooperatively together. Now we are surviving the world disconnected. The lack of human contact and understanding between men and women is the issue. That's why I think a lot of the guys want the past to come back, which it won't. We need to adjust to our present to make a workable future. So those are my quick thoughts on a really interesting question by MrHighway that I didn't want to get lost in the comments feed of that Q&A, because I think it deserves a bit more attention. I don't think we necessarily believe we're going to go back, but what we see as workable, a really efficient, practical, empirical, workable way of relating to human beings. We were more civil. We like to picture the past in a cartoonish way, especially women will say they were put down. But if you look back to the early 1900s, I think Marie Curie won 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different fields of science because she had the will and determination to follow what she wanted to do. So there weren't the impediments. I think there was an easy course for women to become housewives and an easy course for man to be a worker, drone husband. And that was fine. But there was an easier path to relate to each other but also if you had the individual will to follow a calling, to be an adventurer, the world allowed you to do so. I think underlying our wanting some of the past to come back is the civility and intelligence with which our grandparents were able to live in. I think at the heart of it, the longing for the past is the longing for the values, ethics, and civil nature with which we could intelligently relate to each other and practically relate to each other. I think that's it. Some of that would work. You know, some things like that were long overdue, and now we're throwing it out, and it's a shame. Anyway, something to think about. Thanks, Mr. Highway, for posing that great question. And don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up if you liked the video, hit the thumbs down if you didn't. Support me, links below any way you can. I appreciate you leaving comments underneath the videos and being a part of this conversation. I'll talk to you soon, guys.